NHL regular season recap, night 122 from inside MetLife Stadium.
Just like that, we're back outside MetLife Stadium at the hotel. I was not going to make you guys listen to me scream over everyone at that game, but we are going to skip right to the Stadium Series game between the Devils and Philadelphia Flyers because it was a really fun one. Nico Hischier scores just 32 seconds in. I damn near missed this goal from grabbing a drink before the game started, right off a breakaway to get things going, and then 13:30 into the first, Toffoli makes it a 2-0 game for New Jersey. In the second, though, Owen Tippett came out ripping and roaring, trying to make the game close. He scores 7:43 in to make it 2-1. Brendan Smith would add one to make it 3-1. Nate Bastian would make it 4-1 just over a minute later. And then Tippett scores once again to make it a 4-2 game headed to the third. Nico Hischier in the third, 2.5 minutes in, once again, gets his second of the game that makes it 5-2. Nick Seeler would make it 5-3 about halfway through the period, and then Nate Bastian nets the empty netter for his second of the game. All in all, really entertaining, a lot of chippiness, some good emotion shown on either side. Nico Dawes with a really good game. He stopped, I think, 43 of 46. All in all, again, just very entertaining. Was very glad to be there. I'm hoping tomorrow's is just as good. The Devils get it done tonight, though. It's a 6-3 final over Philadelphia. And back to the regular schedule, the Bruins hosting the LA Kings. A bit of a back-and-forth game here. James Van Riemsdyk scores twice in the first, sandwiched over a Matt Roy goal that makes it 2-1 Bees after one. In the second, Anthony Richard, with his first of the year, makes it 3-1 before Gavrikov scores one more. Few minutes remaining in the second to make it 3-2 Boston, headed to the third. In the third, though, Alex Lefebvre ties it at 3-3. Trent Frederick makes it 4-3, and then Anze Kopitar scores with just about a minute and a half to go to force OT at 4 apiece. In that overtime, Brant Clark takes a penalty. The Kings kill it off, and then right out of the box, Brant Clark with a breakaway beats Linus Ullmark for his first of the year, and it's an overtime game-winning goal against one of the best teams in the league. So a huge moment for him, a massive win for the Kings, one they needed very, very badly. It's 5-4 over the Bruins at the Boston Garden. The Oilers visiting Dallas, and I did not get to watch all of this game because I had to head over to the stadium, but from what I got to see, it looked to be pretty entertaining, largely the second period, that being where all but the overtime goal came. Mason Marchment, Evan Bouchard, Thomas Harley, Corey Perry, Derek Ryan, and Matt Duchene all scoring in that period, back and forth the whole way through. We end up tied at 3 headed to the third, where no one scores. And in the overtime, Evan Bouchard with a power play goal, his second of the game, makes it a 4-3 victory for the Oilers. This could very well be a preview of the Western Conference Final. Both of these teams are very, very heavy Cup favorites, both of them showing why in this game. They had some flashes, of why both of these teams are so dominant. Jay Gottinger, not his best game, despite having some pretty good saves in this one, but all in all, just a solid win for Edmonton over a very, very good Stars team. 4-3 is the final. The Blackhawks hosting the Senators in a battle of two kind of bottom feeder teams. The Sens have been better lately per my power rankings, if you guys watch those, but the Blackhawks actually get the job done tonight despite getting outshot pretty much 2-1. The final shots were 42-22 in favor of Ottawa. In the first, though, Nick Foligno opens the scoring. Kurashev and Bedard on the assists here. Stützle brings it back from Giroux and Mateo Joseph. In the second, it's Chikrin from Tarasenko and Stützle, and then Bedard from Kurashev. And then in the third, the eventual game winner belongs to Jason Dickinson from Tyler Johnson and Josh Anderson. Once again, Chicago heavily outshot in this game, but the goaltending held them in. It was largely a second period effort from Ottawa that ended up being the difference here in the shots. 22-6 in the second frame, and then 13-8 in the third. Just not quite enough to get the job done. Chicago hangs on. It's a 3-2 victory over Ottawa. The Red Wings visiting Calgary, and this is another game where the shots were very heavily lopsided in favor of one team, but once again, not the winning side. Calgary outshoots Detroit 38-21, and despite that, they lose by a final of 5-0. Really not a good night from Jacob Markstrom. He gives up 4 on the first 12 shots of the game. It's Patrick Kane, JT Comfort, and then in the second, Dylan Larkin and David Perron all scoring. Lucas Raymond does add one more in the third, but again, by that point, barring a miracle, the game's pretty much over. It's James Reimer stopping all 38 Calgary shots in a very big game for him, and again, just a big game for the Red Wings in general. They're fighting for a playoff spot out east, and this is a game that, despite getting outshot pretty heavily, they will absolutely take winning over a Calgary team that's still kind of fighting for a playoff spot, but they're definitely in a position where they're going to probably start selling some more of those assets that have been talked about really all year at the deadline. This is a big one, though, for Detroit. 5-0 is the final. The Wild hosting the Sabres, and I don't know what it is with the Sabres taking down these teams that have kind of seemed to turn around, but they did it to LA the other night after LA had a big win against Edmonton, and now Minnesota's been on this good little stretch, and suddenly they once again lose to Buffalo. No scoring until the third period, where it's Casey Middlestat, Joel Eriksson, Declan Chisholm, Dylan Cousins, and then in the overtime, Henry Jokiharju with the game winner, just a minute 30 into the OT. I don't really know what to say about this game, to be honest. I mean, Minnesota, again, has been really, really good as of late, but Buffalo is kind of just like playing, buzzkill, I guess. I don't really know. They're beating these teams that have gone on pretty good runs after going on kind of crappy runs. So it's a good win for the Sabres. Again, doesn't mean all that much for them, but it means a lot for the Wild as they're trying to climb back up the Central Division to get themselves into a playoff spot. And a loss against a team like Buffalo definitely does not help that case out. 3-2 for the Sabres is the final. The Blues hosting the Nashville Predators, and right after me writing off Nashville the other night, they take down a team of their own that's been playing pretty well. St. Louis loses this one in a pretty surprising fashion, considering the way they've been playing as of late. Colton Sissons opens the scoring in the first, and then Jordan Kyrou ties it right back up 1-1 after 1 in the second. It's Luke Evangelista that makes it 2-1, and then in the third, things really kind of open up. Philip Forsberg, Luke Shen, Nathan Walker, and Ryan O'Reilly all scoring. It ends up once again a 5-2 final. A big win for the Preds. Again, they're looking to stay alive in the West despite the little stretch of ugliness that they've been on for the Blues. This kind of ends their hot streak that they've been on for a good bit. Against they've been 8-2 in their last 10, so really, really good stretch for them. They're going to lose some games tonight. Not the game you really want to lose to against the divisional rival, but nonetheless, a solid effort from Nashville. They get the job done, 5-2. The Battle of Florida, the Tampa Bay Lightning hosting the Florida Panthers, and this one got ugly, much like that Pred Stars game did a few nights ago. In the first, it's Hagel, Montour, Bennett, Stenlin, and Forsling. It looked like the Lightning were going to be strong opening up, and then, of course, it just kind of falls apart from there. In the second, Kachuk with 2, and then in the third, it's Verhaeghe, another from Bennett, and a third from Verhaeghe, second from Verhaeghe. Braden Point adds 1 to make it 9-2, but of course the game is long over by that point. Not a good game in general from the goaltenders in Tampa Bay, and of course Sergei Bobrovsky gives up just 2 on 30, so hard to complain about that. This is a dominant win from the Panthers, an absolute statement game over their division rival, interstate rival, whatever you want to call it. 2 versus 3 in the Atlantic. If this is a playoff preview, look out for the Sparks once the playoff comes around, because this one's going to be ugly. But for now, Florida wins it big time, 9-2 over Tampa Bay. The Leafs taking on the Anaheim Ducks, and I don't know what it is with these 9-2 games, but we have another one here. Neither Lucas Distal nor John Gibson very good in this one. Lucas Distal giving up 4, John Gibson giving up 5 in the first period. Austin Matthews, Bobby McMahon, Jake McCabe, Frank Vetrano, and William Nylander all scoring in the second. It's Matthews again, Tyler Bertuzzi, Matthews with the hat-trick effort, Bobby McMahon again. In the third, Ryan Strome and Nick Robertson add to the scoring, and again, a 9-2 final. Neither goalie for the Ducks very good. Martin Jones goes 20 for 22 in a perfectly fine game from him. 19 for 21. I guess that depends on the app. The score told me one thing, the NHL app told me another. Whatever. Either way, Martin Jones got to win. He gives up 2 goals, just about a .900 save percentage. Really ugly from the Ducks, but I think you expect to lose this game as the Ducks taking on one of the higher-powered offenses in the league, just probably not this badly. But nonetheless, the Leafs get it done in dominant fashion against a basement team that they should beat. But 9-2 is probably not what anyone expected, but that's the final for this one. The Caps visiting Montreal, and a surprisingly good effort by them. They tend to have rough games against these kind of middle-of-the-pack teams, but they get it done tonight. Anthony Mantha, Arbor Jacki, and TJ Oshie all scoring in the first. Alex Newhook ties the game at 2 in the second, and then in the third, Sonny Milano and Nick Suzuki and Alexei Protas with the eventual game winner. Darcy Kemper with a solid effort here, stopping 28 of 31 for the Caps. They score 4 goals on 34 shots. In a pretty good effort. Once again, not really too much to talk about in this game. Neither of these teams really going to be bargaining for a playoff spot, despite the fact that Washington's still kind of in the mix there. They get it done tonight. We'll see if they can keep the momentum rolling. 4-3 is the final. The Jets taking on the Vancouver Canucks in a battle of 2 of the better teams out west, much like the Dallas-Edmonton game earlier. Noah Juleson opens up the scoring in the second period, and then Gabe Vilardi, Sean Monahan, and Tyler Miles also score in the second. In the third, Vilardi adds another, and Mark Scheifele with his 16th of the year makes it a 4-2 win for the Jets. Connor Hellebuck really solid in this one. He goes 35 for 37, while Thatcher Demko goes just 24 for 28. One of his weaker games of the year statistically. He had some good saves in there, but you need a couple more, of course, if you're going to come out over a team that has a goalie that's been playing as well as Connor Hellebuck has. So a big win for the Jets tonight over a very strong Vancouver Canucks team, 4-2.
The Hurricanes visiting Vegas in another pretty high-powered affair, and I guess Spencer Martin's decent in this one. Jonathan Marchessault scores the first goal in the first period, but then from there it's pretty much all Canes. Svechnikov scores in the second, and then Jarvis and Nason both score in the third. Pretty even shots-wise, 28-30 in favor of Vegas, but again, Spencer Martin, 29 of 30 in this one. Adin Hill, 25 of 28. Frankly, just the worst of the two goalies, and that's why Carolina ends up coming away with the victory. It's a needed one for them. Of course, the Rangers playing today, so we'll see whether they win or lose, but the Canes are slowly creeping up on them in the Metro Division standings. For Vegas, they got a bit of ground to make up on Vancouver, and despite Vancouver losing tonight, Vegas losing obviously does not help their case at all. Either way, these teams are both pretty safe bets for playoff spots, but pretty good game either way. But Carolina takes care of business 3-1. Final game of the night is a doozy between the Columbus Blue Jackets and San Jose Sharks. I admittedly did not watch any of this, but the Blue Jackets get the job done 4-3. In the first, it's Duclair, Werenski, and Marchenko, and then in the second, Voronkov, Duclair with the second, and Fabian Zetterlund. We head to the third, where Boone Jenner scores the difference maker, his 17th of the year, with just 13 seconds to play, and it's a 4-3 victory for Columbus. Kaapo Kähkönen did all he could in this one. He goes 37 for 41, while Elvis Merzlikins goes 28 for 31. Pretty even numbers from both those guys, a 903 for Elvis and a 902 for Kaapo Kähkönen, but just not quite enough to get the job done if you're Kähkönen. It's a nice win for Columbus. They don't get a ton of them, so it's, again, nice to get one once in a while, but at the end of the day, they're probably more in the tank situation than trying to win these games, and San Jose now lower in the overall standings than they are, so they'll take it, but really probably not all that great for them. 4-3 is the final, and that is it for NHL regular season recap. Night 122, I have no voice left. The Stadium Series definitely got the better of me, so apologize if the recap later today is even messier and sounds even worse than this one, but one way or another, we'll talk to you guys then.